Hey guys, what's going on? Today we're going to be looking at prime lenses, what they are, why you need them, and why you should also be picking them over zoom lenses. What is a prime lens? A prime lens is a lens with a fixed focal length. That simply means that you're not going to be able to zoom in or zoom out when using this lens. It is fixed to one focal length, meaning if you want to get the shot, you either have to move there or you have to move back. It's just that one focal length. And then you might be asking me, how is that of any advantage to me? We're going to be looking at a few things that make prime lenses such great lenses to have in your kit, and I'm sure at the end of this you'll have a few things to consider before you go out to buy your next lens. So in front of me I've got an 85mm lens, I've got a 50mm lens, and then I've got the 35mm lens. And to me, ideally, I feel like these three lenses are the holy grail of prime lenses. I want you guys to see them, so let's unbox them. This is an 85mm lens. It just looks superb, and when it's on a body it is awesome. This is the 50mm lens. I'm sure every photographer knows about this lens, the Nifty 50. Such a versatile lens, and we shall be looking at it in this video. And lastly, the 35mm lens, one of the common lenses for street photography, and we shall be looking at other things that it can do well. So why in your right mind would you pick a prime lens over a zoom lens? You may be wondering, why wouldn't you just buy a 24-70 or a 24-105, which can cover the full range of what I have here? And the first reason I would give you is that it's a whole lot cheaper. If you look at a 24-70 on B&H today, you would have to buy that lens at about $2,000. And this kit right in front of me would cost you only about $1,111, and that is almost $1,000 saved. So prime lenses are generally cheaper than zoom lenses, and you'll find that having these three lenses covers that same length that you'll probably mostly use, which is the 24-105 range. The second thing is that prime lenses are able to go down to a faster aperture, meaning they can reach apertures of 1.2, 1.8 and 1.4, and that means more light within them. I do not think, and I stand to be corrected, that there is a zoom lens that goes below 2.8 or higher than 2.8. So your low light performance is always going to be better on a prime lens, simply because they're able to achieve those high apertures. And then a third point that I wouldn't necessarily think is very viable, but some people think that prime lenses are sharper than zoom lenses. Many people say probably because there are less moving parts, but also because they're able to achieve a shallower depth of field as compared to zoom lenses, meaning they will make that subject of yours stand out much more, and that in turn helps you perceive that it's a bit sharper than the zoom lenses. So today we're testing out prime lenses. What's your take on prime lenses? Do you prefer prime lenses or zoom lenses?
I'd say I like a bit of both.
A bit of both?
Yeah.
In what sense? Yeah.
Depends on what exactly I'm shooting. When I'm doing product, I prefer a prime.
Yeah.
There's where they are sharp, they are crisp. Also, zoom lens is good if maybe I'm grabbing maybe weddings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what would you prefer for portraits for a wedding? Would you prefer an 85mm or a 70-200?
85.
85, for sure.
85.
There's just something about the lens.
It's a great focal length.
Yeah.
It has amazing bokeh.
Yeah. So why would I call this the holy grail of prime lenses? So you're looking at a 35mm all the way to an 85mm. The 35mm is considered a wide lens, meaning you're getting a lot of subjects in your frame when you use a 35mm, whereas when you look at the 85mm, you can still get multiple subjects in your lens, but you'd have to move quite back. So this is what we consider a telephoto lens. So you have that whole range that usually you would get on a 24-70 or a 24-105 in these three lenses, but again in a cheaper price. So 35mm would be best if your style of photography is more towards street style photography, or you're getting a lot of group photos, or you're getting multiple subjects in your frame. The 35mm would do well for you. And then the Nifty 50. The 50 is such a versatile range. It is between telephoto and wide, meaning you're going to be able to get in a few subjects, but you're also going to get a bit closer than you would on the 35mm lens. The 50mm mark, you start to get better bokeh than you would get on a 35mm lens. So I think the 50mm will give you better rounded bokeh than the 35. So if that's something you're into, something that compresses the background more, the 50mm would be something you go for. And it's so versatile that you can also do portraits, but you can also do street photography. So the 50mm I think even if you had all the other prime lenses, this is something you should have, even if you had a zoom lens. And then you come to the 85mm. Now this is something that most photographers will not necessarily have unless you're doing portraits or you're doing wedding photography. This is good for those garden sessions. It's good for portraits. Like I've said, it's such a tactile lens, and that's not to say you can't do all those on these different lenses, but they perform best at those particular tasks. When you could shoot portraits with a 35 and with an 85mm, but I think the 85mm would be best. You can also use the 85mm for your landscape photos, for your street photography, but I think the 35mm would be best. You can use these lenses for all those types of photography. It's just maybe which is easier, and I believe that is something that you should consider when you're going to buy those in order. If you're going to buy them all at once, it's all good. If you're going to buy one at a time, then you have to consider what type of photography am I really doing, and which lens or which focal length is best for that type of photography. If you're ever in doubt, the 50mm is something you should consider. It will cover you up all the time. It is something useful, and I can't stress that enough. In these three lenses, would the 85 be your choice? The 35, the 50, or the 85? If it's the only lens you had to carry, and you had to do products, you had to do street photography, which of the three would you choose?
Now it's tight.
Just one.
Tight. I'll go for in between.
So you'd say 50?
I would say 50.
I think I would agree with that, because like 50 is in the middle. It's just a sweet spot. If we look at the video side for a short while, I think the 35mm is very good for someone who's doing YouTube. Right now I'm actually shooting on a 35mm Canon lens, and you can see how wide my frame is. It's a bit back, as you can see, but it still gives me that wide shot that I need for this headshot talk. Then the 85mm lens is very good for that cinematic style photography, something that you need that compression, probably b-roll shots. The 85mm lens is so it's something crisp, and I think it will be great for you. The 15mm, like I said, it still applies in video. It's such a versatile lens. You can use it for your candid shots, for your b-roll shots, and I think you could try to use it for your A-roll shots, but it will probably be at the back, so I wouldn't really consider this a lens for vlogging or for YouTube. I would stick to the 35mm lens, because you can still get really nice thumbnails out of it. You can get nice product shots out of this lens, and you can still use it as a wide lens for your A-roll shots. So there you have it, prime lenses, what they are and why you should have them in your kit. And tell me, which one would you pick out first as your first lens to buy? I think I would pick out the 50mm, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you think zoom lenses are better, I would also like to know why you think zoom lenses are better. Trust, I think my favorite lens is the 70-200, but I think when it comes to primes, they are such versatile lenses, especially for low light situations, like when you're shooting A-roll shots and you don't have enough light. It allows in so much light, and I think prime lenses will always be such great tools to have in our kits. But that's been it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And hey, always remember to deliver a feeling. Peace.